Great.
Today's guest is someone I'm so excited to welcome. She's an actress, writer, director, and a true pig lover. Lena Dunham is here with us, and we're going to talk all about her journey into the world of pig parenting. Lena, welcome.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. This is my favorite podcast. I love to fall asleep to it, listen to it while I do the dishes or take care of the pigs. So I feel like, as I told you, this is like meeting the greatest celebrity to me. So thank you. Not that
You,
we've already know each other, but this is very special.
yes, well, you are the sweetest person. I am thrilled to have you and talk about your pigs and all the things today.
I'm thrilled. Thank you.
So, first of all, can you tell us a little bit about how you first fell in love with pigs? Was it something that you'd thought about for a while, or did this love surprise you?
Great question. So, my mother always tells the story that when I was a kid, I said when I grew up, I wanted to be an actress and a pig farmer because
No.
I didn't know that pig farmers were actually eating pigs. I thought that pig farmers were just hanging out with pigs. I thought you just got to kind of laze around with pigs. I just from the t and also another story is I had one of those piggy banks that's like, made of porcelain. And one night I took it to bed with me, and my mother says I've never been more upset because it fell out of bed and shattered.
Oh,
But I loved my piggy bank so much I wanted to cuddle with it. So let's just say this has been going on for a long time.
amazing.
And I always loved pigs. Every time I think there are pig people and there are not pig people.
Mhm.
And if you are a pig person, there is nothing more adorable and charming to you than a pig. And I've always loved animals. I've had rabbits and lizards and cats and hedgehogs and dogs. And I really had always dreamed of being able to have a pig. And actually, I was working on a movie in England, and we had it was set in medieval times. And so there was an area of the movie where we needed to have some pigs hanging out in mud. And that day I could barely do my job because of how much I wanted to be with the pigs. Um, and so this about a year ago, I realized that I was going to be in the same place for a period of time. I was starting to spend more time at my home in the country where I live with my husband and my parents, and it felt like I knew that to actually really be a pig parent, you had to really spend time getting them to be able to interact with people, to be able to come in and out of the home. Otherwise, you would have a very naughty pig. And so I took the plunge and got my first pig child, Victor. And it was in doing research about how to best care for Victor because I realized there was, I was just delving into the world of pigs, and there's so much, you realize how different they are from raising a dog or raising a cat. And that's when I discovered you and your podcast and your classes. And so when I decided that Victor should not be a solo pig, because actually having pig friends is very important, that's when I was lucky enough to be able to get a pig from your litter. And that's where my little lady cherry present comes from.
So, I want to talk a little bit about what it was like just to bring Victor home. And when you brought him home, how did you feel? Did you feel happy? Was it a dream come true? Did you feel overwhelmed?
I would say the first feeling was like it was Christmas. I could not believe there was a pig in the house. The first couple of nights, I would wake up and just go and look at him and think, I cannot believe there is a pig in the house. But I was also struck by how, I've had many dogs, many cats, I've rescued, I've fostered, and immediately I went, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore. This is a very different thing. I remember just watching him just kind of oinking around and like snuffling his nose in his litter and thinking, I don't even fully know how to pick this guy up. I don't know what he wants. I would do things that I thought that a puppy would love and it would scare him. And I was learning, even just reaching out your hand, like piglets startle easily. You have to really learn to, the first time I picked him up, the sound they make, which is like, I thought the police were going to come just from the sound that came out of his mouth from the first time I gave him a bath. And I remember my father, who lives across the way, going, because he saw how much work it was. And he was like, Lena, if it's too much for you and it's too overwhelming, no one will judge you. And I thought, no, there is no way that I'm not going to let this not work out. I love him too much. And I know that there's so many people who adopt pigs and then don't know how to manage them. And so I was also overwhelmed because also if you go online, there are as many people telling you to raise your pig in so many different ways. It felt like there was no set way to go about it. Like you go on some websites and they're talking about using a clicker, and you go on some websites and they're saying it's going to scare them, and you go on, and also just realizing how smart they are and how whatever you allow, they will continue to do. So it's not just about what you teach them, it's also about what you don't say no to
Mm.
and disciplining them, but in a way and how do you discipline something that's literally the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? So
Yes, for
that's
sure.
when, through all the noise, I got to your website and I went, okay, someone is taking all this information and putting it together and making it legible and sane. And I just leaned into everything you were saying. And that's when I wrote you a long email because I was just so impressed by what you were doing. And I was actually seeing the results with Victor. And I was seeing him get more comfortable with me, get more comfortable with other people, take to his potty training, actually learn tricks. And once I could see that, it was so satisfying. And it was also so amazing to realize just how smart pigs are and how much they take in. And so that was sort of my journey to finding you.
Wow. So I am just honored that my podcast and my resource and things have helped you. What do you think specifically maybe were some of the biggest light bulb moments that you had when you were learning about pig care?
That's such a great question. I think that something that was huge for me was really learning that it wasn't about forcing Victor to not act like a pig. It was about embracing his innate pigness
Hmm.
in order to get him to do things that made it so we could live peacefully together. So, for
I love that.
example, he's hungry all the time. They all are. I wasn't supposed to say, try to stop that. I was supposed to try to use that in order to create a harmonious living situation where he can follow commands, where he can use his litter box, where he, in an emergency, will allow me to pick him up should anything happen, or should he, in the terrible instance that there's a fire or there's a attack or anything that could occur, like a dog attack. And then the other thing I think that was huge for me was also realizing he was so easy to train with. Once you have treats in the mix, a pig will do basically they could basically, write a novel for you if they think they're going to get a treat. But it was also realizing that if I gave him treats every single time he did something good, that then all of his behavior was going to be food motivated and he was going to become potentially food aggressive or demanding. And so then also realizing the role of praise and love, and that in order to make him want praise, our connection had to be deep
Mm.
enough that that was meaningful to him. So things like just putting on music and letting him listen and walk around. And once kind of calm music goes on, he starts to calm down. And then he'll he'll let me give him scratches. Then he'll flop over on his side. Then we can lie peacefully together for an hour, 2 hours, like realizing that in order to really engage with him, I had to make sure that our bond was strong and
Mhm.
that he trusted me, and not just that he listened to me, but that I was consistent with him. So he knew that he had a consistent, safe person in his
Mhm.
life.
So important. Because if a pig doesn't trust you, they're not going to trust you to pick them up, give them a bath. But if they do trust you, then they're going to be drawn to you. They're going to be more apt to maybe, okay, if you're asking them to do something that feels hard to them, they're going to be
Yeah.
looking to you as a leader. And
Well,
so that's something you've done is set yourself up as a really good, strong leader.
you helped me with that so much because I had had so many dogs that I knew the basics of what it was to train a dog. I knew the basics of how you could speak to them, what satisfied them, what made them feel safe. And I've even dealt with, dogs who have been rehomed or dogs who come from, both of my dogs that I have now come from different but complicated rescue situations. So they have had to learn to feel safe with me. They've had to learn to get over, both of them had a lot of, still do deal with separation anxiety. But what was so interesting about learning to get Victor to trust me was that a piglet is not like a puppy. They do not run right over to you. Like when I first got Victor and when I first got Cherry, they would rather be anywhere in the room but with me. They were finding every corner, they were hiding. Something I feel proud of is now if I go down, the pigs live downstairs in my house and then they also have their pen outside. If I go out to if they even hear me, they come running, they're screeching to get inside. If I'm downstairs, they're next to me. Wherever I am is where they want to be. But that took time. And so it's been so satisfying to see that it's not like they just jumped out of their carrier the first day and into my lap. It was a slow, slow
Mhm.
process of being gentle with them and showing them that I was safe and showing them that I was someone that they could trust. And also, something I'm really proud of is the relationship that they have with each other because he is a really good big brother to her and adores her. And you talked me through how to do that. And I thought it was going to be weeks of them tussling back and forth. And within 3 days, she was his shadow and they go everywhere together.
And they are so cute together. They are adorable together. You can tell when they're laying next to each other, they like melt into each
Oh,
other.
so sweet. And when they eat dinner, my father just noticed this the other day, they eat dinner with their butts touching. They have their bowls next to each other but they always want to be near each other. And the only time that they're not is if they're playing a game.
Oh, that is so sweet. Pigs really do bond deeply together. It's,
It's really amazing to see. It feels like they kind of mate for life. I
yeah.
mean, platonic mates, but mates
Hmm.
nonetheless.
Right. And just think about that. Like in the wild, in a situation of a herd of pigs, nobody ever moves away. You're a family for life. You're a herd for life.
Well, that's something I love about pigs is I love how much also what they do indoors. Like watching them make their bed every night. I fold up the blankets and then they will take all of them, move them across the room, organize them into this kind of big donut of blankets and get in. And it's basically what they would do in the wild, which is work on their burrow all day.
Hmm. Yep.
They do the same thing with their house outside. They reorganize the straw, they put their toys in, they take their toys out. And I think learning about what wild pig behavior gives you such an insight into. I think I remind everyone because everyone who comes over to the house goes, "Can I see the pigs?" Because it's not an everyday pet. And so people are absolutely obsessed with visiting them. And I remind everyone they're prey animals. You have to remember they're prey animals. So are they are constantly in a state of fight or flight. Like I think anxious people can relate to how pigs feel, which is that it takes a lot for them to feel safe and it's so easy for them to go into a frozen state of fear. So everything about their life is designed for them to feel like they can just be safe and be happy and be free.
Yes, and those are two things that I think that people don't realize when they just see a cute pig and they think, "Oh, I want to bring this pig home." They don't realize they're nest creatures. They
Yeah.
in the wild, they build a nest on a farm if given enough straw and bedding. They will build a nest. I have a pig who loves sticks. Any stick that falls into his space, he pulls in to make his bed. I don't know how that's comfortable, but
But
he's
he's
always
always working on it.
building that nest. And
Yup.
then the second thing is pigs are busy. They're busy creatures and they're always on the lookout for the next scary thing. They live in that state of fear all the time. And so that's why it is important to really know what kind of creature they are and understand them, because you can relieve a lot of that pressure off their shoulders, a lot of that anxiety, just by knowing who they are. And you said it earlier, treating them like a pig.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we I think people who are pig people love them because of their pigness. Like whenever I meet a fellow pig person, and they're few and far between,
Mhm.
um, and it's shocking how many times you tell people that you have pigs, and the first thing they do is make some joke about eating them for a snack. It's the
Always.
favorite
Hmm.
bit is to be, or like, if you walk them on a leash, a nice piece of bacon you've got there. Like
Yep.
it's my husband genuinely is like, "How dare you?" And I'm like,
Yes.
people people have to learn.
Yep.
But I have to say, and this is not a judgment to anyone who eats pork, but it's a testament to them, which is that from the day they came home, my father was like, I don't want pigs on this property. I mean, I think he was picturing like, 6,000-pound sows who were going to be
Right.
growing all day. I think he
Yes.
was picturing that we were going to become full-time homesteaders, which I would love, but is not what's happening now. And everyone in their orbit was like, it's not even a vegetarianism thing. I just literally can't eat bacon anymore because I have had this emotional
Hmm.
interaction with them. And
Hmm.
I never judge it. I mean, I think that there's ethical ways to do everything.
Right.
And what we do as a country in terms of how all the way we make food generally is all of it is kind of unethical. Thumbs
Yeah. Yeah.
And but it's just interesting to see how people who had no relationship to the idea of pigs are so entranced by them when they get a chance to see pigs in a different. I think it's seeing a pig in a home environment lets people see them and connect to them in a very different way
Mhm.
than if they're just driving past a farm. They get to actually experience them as individuals.
Yeah. And factory farming of pigs is horrific.
Yeah.
I hate the whole system. Um,
Yeah,
I I too feel the same way. Like I can't eat an animal that had a bad life. It's out of respect for life. I don't feel like I can do that.
that's a beautiful
Um,
way of saying it.
And I feel like when people drive past a factory farm, they disassociate themselves. They don't like the idea of eating something cute or eating something either that they like. So many times when it comes to food and animals, people disassociate themselves.
You're so right. And I think something that we've done with pigs in general is because pigs are such a big source of food for people and they're such a big export in this country and they're such big business, we've almost not allowed ourselves to understand what intelligent and emotional creatures they are.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that people can't eat pigs. It just means that I think there's plenty of people who are doing it in the most ethical, lovely, beautiful way.
Mhm.
But it is really interesting to see that when people, and I'm a vegetarian, that's just a personal choice for me, but I don't, I have no judgment towards other people. That being said, it's interesting to see how much people have disassociated from the idea that pigs are as loving and intelligent as dogs or cats. They
Mhm.
just can't think about them that way. And
Mhm.
so then when they experience them in a home setting, and at first you tell people, I have pigs. They live in your house? Yeah, they live in my house. Excuse me? Like there's
Yeah.
they think you're a little eccentric, to
Yeah.
say the least.
Mhm.
But then what I think they're expecting is to walk in and have like the house smell like a barn. And
Yep.
exactly. They walk in and they're like, wait, I don't smell anything. They're just teetering around on their little toddler toes playing with toys.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's so different. And I've probably had close to 100 people who, we do these piglet visits where people can come or they come to pick up their piglet and we go in the basement where we've got this space for them. And the first thing, usually it's a man will say, huh, okay, I don't smell anything. And I'm like,
That's,
yeah, we clean the litter boxes every day.
yep.
That's the only smell that you will smell is the litter box, but we keep it clean and my adult pigs don't go in the house. So,
Well, the other thing is because pigs are vegetarians, even, or my pigs are, I know pigs are omnivores, but my pigs eat primarily vegetarian food.
greens and things, yeah.
Greens and, and they eat greens and they eat their pig kibble and they eat, I give them every week they get a hard-boiled egg. They have little bits of cheese, but I'm very
Mhm.
particular. It's not the classic, oh, you're just going to feed your pig your slop thing. Like they have
Oh
a
no, yeah.
particular diet. So they also like smell far less than any dog or cat. And
Yes.
they don't slobber on you. Pigs are actually very genteel, tidy creatures.
Mhm.
I always say pigs just need a better PR person. Like they've just had bad PR.
I agree 100%. I'm really trying to be that PR
You
person.
are the PR person. That's the thing is anyone who meets you is like, "Oh my gosh, I've completely misunderstood." But what I love about the way that you teach is you're not like trying to make pigs into, some people are putting them in hats and putting them in strollers, and you're not trying to turn pigs into children. You're not trying to turn pigs into dogs. You're trying to get us to embrace what is magical about pigs as pigs.
And pigs are magical. They are different from any other animal on this planet that I know of. Their they have true individual personalities.
Yeah.
They feel emotion. They're extremely intelligent. They're able to say, okay, I did this happened. If I loved the outcome, I'm going to do this all the time, or vice
They
versa.
they're capable of many part logic. Like they're capable of going, okay, I'm gonna move that stool over there. Then she's gonna help me. Then we're gonna open the cabinet. Like there's
Yes.
so much trickery afoot. I mean, there was a moment when Victor was sort of just growing out of his baby phase. I'd say he's like a teen. He's an adolescent now. He realized he could unplug lamps and then yank them off the table, and then he would like run away, literally sounding like he was laughing. Like it was almost shocking. I mean, the amount of light bulbs that needed replacing. And so now I have, those little kitty socket
Oh
protectors.
yeah.
But I was like, he was doing it purely for his own amusement. Like it just
Unbelievable.
amused him. And I couldn't believe it. And the other thing is they are very, I mean, I don't know if you find this with your pigs, but sometimes I'll find them and they're just having like I'll hear one making a loud noise and I'll run and they're just having an emotional response to something. A big dramatic, it's like a toddler wailing. And
Hmm.
and you just go, it's okay. I don't, but
Right.
something hit them wrong and they're just having a big feeling and you can't always explain what it is.
No, yeah. Oh, yes. I see that all the time.
I'm
And
sure.
sometimes, like right now, we have a litter of piglets downstairs, and sometimes they have days where one of them is just mad at everybody. Like, don't touch me, don't root on me. I just need space. It is incredible the different types of personalities, the things that irritate them,
Oh,
the things they love. It's just they're so entertaining.
well, I don't know if it's because Victor and Cherry have very different personalities. And maybe it's because he's a bore. He reminds me of like that teenage boy who's like, bull in a china shop, he's always knocking something over. He's always hurling his bowl around. I mean, you know Victor well because he came to stay with you for a month, which
Yes.
was where he learned a lot of manners, but I'll wake up in the morning to him just clanging his bowl like he's at like at one of those old saloons where a man is like hitting hitting his beer glass, demanding more. And she is very genteel. Instead of oinking, most of the time she makes a little sound like this.
Uh-huh.
It's her own thing, and she is quiet most of the time, but then if he messes with her or takes it too far, she will
Yeah.
show him who's boss.
Hmm.
She's like that woman in the relationship who acts very ladylike but actually wears the pants.
Okay, I
Like
was gonna ask that.
she
Hmm.
wears the pants.
Okay.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, he's louder and noisier and tougher, but she is the boss. And like last week, he tried to take she was teething, and so she was eating more slowly. He tried to take a treat out of her mouth, and she just chomped down on his tail. And you could just see he was like, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It won't happen again.
So they get along really well.
They get along. I mean, I can count on one hand the number of scuffles they've gotten into, and the scuffles usually end because she wins,
Uh,
despite being about a third of his size. She wins every single time. And most of the day, I mean, it's funny because she's all black with a white paw, as you know, because she came from your beautiful home. And so sometimes it looks like I can't even see her because it just looks like his shadow is behind her and then
Uh-huh.
she emerges wherever. I'm constantly thinking she's lost and then realizing she's right at my feet. She's very quiet, moves slowly, but they just want to be together. They're either playing together, running in circles, or wrapped in a blanket together. And it's the best result I could have hoped for because I realized very quickly, and this is something I learned from you, even though I spent tons of time with him when he was young and when he was in his baby phase, and we were constantly together. I brought him places with me in a bag. People were often surprised when they would look over and think there was a dog and then realize there was a pig at the party. I definitely have had some very shocked drunk people at parties because I was literally like, I'm not going to go anywhere without him. So I guess we're going to this Christmas party together. Um, and so one time, this was actually, I took him to a Christmas party and I looked over and there was like they were having a pig roast at the Christmas party and I had him in the bag. And then the chef girls were like, can we hold him? He's so gorgeous. And I was like, I don't know. I don't necessarily feel safe handing him over after what I've just seen. But I realized he needed I think I told you this. I brought him one day to go visit the cows that lived next door. And he started making sounds I had never heard come out of his mouth before, like a totally new language. And the cows just all came towards him. And even though he was 8 pounds and they were 1,000 pounds, they were touching noses through the fence. And it was just, I thought he needs to be able to speak his language to someone who isn't me. Because as much as I want to learn, I will never speak fluent pig.
Hmm.
And so that's why it's so nice to hear now. I mean, they're just chatting all day. It's
Hmm.
sometimes friends will come over and they're like, I didn't realize that they were so noisy. How do you, and to me, I'm sure I don't even notice it anymore.
Same. Yes.
It's just the sound of my home is
Yes.
grunting.
Hmm.
But other people will come in and go. A friend slept over and he was like, "Oh my God, I just heard pigs all night long."
And they're chatty and it's not like they're squealing. They're
Oh,
oinking. They're oinking, they're chatting and their hooves, whether it's on like tile or hardwood or whatever, it's clacky. It sounds like a woman in high heels. Click clack click
it's
clack click clack click clack. So if they're
my favorite.
clacking, they're oinking, they got all these like throaty and
Yeah.
grunts and oinks and it's not annoying.
Not
It's
to me. When I get home, if I've been away working and I come back on a Friday night and I open the door and they're in bed, I suddenly hear like click, clack, click, clack, click, clack. And it's my favorite sound is just that little greeting that's
I love
coming.
that. I love that. You mentioned that Victor came here for a month when you were working on a project in, I think, London.
I was in London. So I've been primarily in the US, the past I've been back and forth, but working more in the US over the past year. So I've been spending time here, and that's why the piggies have been here. But I also have a home in the UK. My
Hmm.
husband's British, and he spends more time there. So we're figuring out our back and forth. And right now, our cats and dogs have been in the UK, and the pigs have been here. I've already done research to find out what the situation will be if we go back for a longer, when we go back for a longer period of time with flying them. And I actually have found a really great service that has done it before. So where you don't have to have, where they can quarantine technically in your
Hmm.
house and then
Yes.
go. So that will be another step on our adventure is flying pigs, but we're not
Mhm.
quite there yet. But yeah, so I was going back for a month and I had already decided that I was going to be adopting Cherry from you. And I thought, what could be better than him getting a chance to stay with someone that I trust so much, who I also know is a genius with pig manners, because even though he was learning a lot, there was still that, you just that impatience and that restlessness. And I
Yeah.
felt like I could feel for him because I was like, I want you to be able to enjoy your surroundings and feel
Mhm.
calmer and not constantly be in this fight or flight state, looking for food, looking
Hmm.
for trouble, looking for attention. And
Hmm.
so he had major separation anxiety every time I left the room. And so yeah, he drove out to Ohio, where which I have a soft spot for because I went to college there and got to stay with you. And it was really amazing for me because you sent me updates the entire time. And it was such an education for me.
And he is such a good pig, but he did have a lot of anxiety. He
Yeah.
was nervous just being by himself. He was
Yeah.
nervous. So
Yeah.
we worked on a lot of things. We worked on some training. We worked on some boy, it's been a while now. I'm trying to remember all the
You
things we
worked
worked
on
on.
you really taught, like you worked on, you would make his breakfast and then you would not give it to him until he had
Yeah.
lay down. And
He had to be calm. Yeah.
I thought to myself, how are you going to do that? It's going to take 24 hours. If he knows there's food there, he's going to be active, but you got him there.
Hmm. It wasn't very long. It was maybe the first week. He squealed a lot because
Yeah.
he was in new surroundings. He wanted attention. He wanted food. He was just trying to see what he could get away with. By the second week, his squealing went
Yeah.
way down because we had him crated when we weren't like directly with him and right in our living space. So he could see us, but he
Yeah.
couldn't get to us. And he had to understand that this is your space and this is where you are at, at this moment. And in order to come out, you have to be calm.
Yeah.
And
With
so within 2 weeks, I mean, his personality, he calmed way down.
And he really blossomed because now, I mean, of course, he still has his dramatic pig moments, but now if I am moving through the space and I'm going upstairs, I'm going outside, he's not constantly try in a panic that he can't be where I am. I
Mm.
think also having Cherry and having that sibling bond
Mhm.
has also changed things because if I'm not there, he's not alone.
Mhm.
So whatever he does, she's in it with him. And so and she's also, because you raised her to do that, she's also a really good calming influence on him.
Yeah, and she does have a calm personality. She does have a,
She's just, I always say she's just a chiller. She's just a chiller.
yeah.
And he, by his very nature, although it's so funny because she's so quiet, last week, my father was over and he was playing with Victor, and Cherry like went in like a little ninja and he didn't even realize that she just chewed off one of his shoelaces.
Oh my
And
goodness.
he was like, how did this happen? Because she had gone in so quietly and then suddenly
Oh.
looked down and she was just running away with like this piece of shoelace that she'd gotten. That's their great shoes. That's one thing I've had to realize is I cannot train them away from shoes. They just have to come off the floor because
Yeah.
they're passion for shoes. And they will take shoes and make them a part of their bed. That's their
Yes.
favorite thing to do is
Yes.
take shoes and use them to try to build whatever strange architecture they're building. So,
Yes, we had to learn that lesson also. When Topanga was a baby, she would chew on shoestrings, but for her, her favorite thing to do was my husband wears dress shirts. And so the little buttons on dress shirts, she
oh,
loved to crunch those. She wouldn't eat them. She would just crunch them and then kind of spit them out. But like we were like, what is happening to all the buttons on your shirts?
that's classic. I wear a lot of like charm bracelets and charm necklaces, and one of Cherry's
Mhm.
favorite thing to do is just come over and kind of wrap her mouth around them, just kind of nibble on them. And then she did accidentally, she did do it when I wasn't looking and break open a string of beads, but I was like, this is on me. You were just being too cute, and I couldn't stop you.
Yeah, so we learn when you have a pig, you learn you got to kind of put things up. People call it like piggy proofing, but I don't know. I just think I just want you to be able to live in my personal space. I want you to be free to be a pig.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we keep things up just to kind of keep you safe.
I remember when I was first getting deliveries of pig things to the post office in our town, and my father went to go pick them up for me, being a lovely father. And the woman who's his pal at the post office was like, "You guys are getting a lot of stuff from Petco. What's going on here?" And my father said, "Actually, my daughter just got a pig." And she said, "Oh, a friend of mine had a potbelly pig." And he said, "Oh yeah." And she goes, "And it ate everything in her house, ripped her floorboards up, and made her house into a nightmare, and nobody ever wanted to go over anymore." He was like, "What happened?" She was like, "I don't know. Nobody wanted to talk to her, go over to her house because of her pig." She basically told him like the horror, like an urban myth horror story.
Mm.
And he came back terrified. He was like, "What is going to happen? Your house is." But the thing that I realized is if you do the work with them when they're young, then yes, you have to do a little bit of piggy proofing for their safety, for yours, but it would never occur, there, and if they have something that, I've made the choice, for example, they wanted to chew on the wooden di legs of my dining chairs. So I
Mhm,
switched those out for something that they weren't gonna like, and I
mhm,
wrapped other stuff. But now and also they have enough enrichment that it wouldn't occur to them to attempt to rip
mhm,
up the entire home in a fit. And also, they know that we're not scared of them. And so they know that when I, and also I don't over discipline them. So when I do, they take it seriously.
mhm.
But it was just so funny because my father came back terrified by this story. And I thought, I'm not sure they ripped the floorboards up, but I can't imagine a pig creating a tornado in the home.
Absolutely, because their snout is so strong. And so they can cause some damage. And usually, like when people tell me, I get people tell me those stories all the time, right?
Of
If I'm
course.
out in an event or if I'm doing speaking somewhere, the first thing people want to run up to me and say, my aunt had one and it destroyed her home. And so the first thing I always think is that pig had no boundaries.
Yep.
That pig was given free roam of the house.
Yep.
Um, why would you give a pig free roam of your house? So how did you handle that situation? There's a lot of things that you can do to prevent that from happening.
Every part of that story says to me that the person just was not prepared for what was coming.
Definitely.
Not to, and I'm sure that there are situations where people also adopt pigs who already are, the die has already been cast and they are already untrusting and aggressive. But what's so like I joined your group on Mighty where you give pig advice, and it's so wonderful because if something comes up, you can immediately ask. And and what's so great is that people are comfortable to bring things there. And what usually it seems like one of the common denominators, and I'm curious what you'd say to this, when somebody has an issue with their pig, whether it's aggression or destruction, is that there have not been proper boundaries placed around the pig.
Yeah, many times. And I think a lot of times people just assume that a pig is going to be like a dog. And
Of
so they're
course.
like, why are you, why are you rooting up the carpet? Why are you messing with that?
Yeah.
But when people, I have so many tips and tricks that I can share with people because I've tried to help so many people over the years. So I know things that work, things you can try, things, but usually it's a pig that has free roam of the house.
Yeah.
They don't have any rules, they don't have any boundaries. Yes.
And you've seen it all. And, something that I'm curious about, and I'd be really curious for your take on, is yes, it's you have so many tips and tricks, and people don't necessarily understand how to engage with a pig. But I'm curious if what you see with people is this feeling that they're also just really they're really expecting that their pig can just fit into their life without understanding that a pig has its own way of living its life.
So much so. So much so. When you understand the kind of creature that a pig is, and you treat them like the creature they are,
Yeah.
something simple, it's simple to me, it's not simple to everybody, but being able to read body language is so important because if you can read your pig's body, let's say company comes over and you can read your pig's body language, you'll know if they're nervous. You'll
Yeah.
know if they're comfortable. And if they're nervous, then you can prevent anything from happening that a pig would naturally do, like
Yeah.
biting a stranger or charging a stranger or head swiping a stranger. You will be able to know, you'll be able to prevent all that from happening. So you won't have people who will refuse to come to your home.
Well, that's a big one that I hear is people don't, if you go on Reddit, if you go on Pig Reddit, it's all people going, no one wants to come over to my house.
Hmm.
Rage. But what's interesting is I also think if you have a like Victor tried to head swipe me once ever. And I think what was happening was we were snuggling and he was rooting against me. And I was
Uh,
saying no nudge. And I was pushing him away and doing kind of the anti-nudge move.
hmm
And he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he swiped
hmm
his head. And immediately, my response was to get up, to practice move the pig, to put him into his room. And the first thing, that was the first experience he ever had after head swiping. But the reason I was even able to do that was because I had been educated by you about what issues might come up with a pig.
hmm
Otherwise, I might not have even recognized head swiping as what it was, which was an
hmm
aggressive move.
hmm
And I wouldn't have even known to, because it's not something dogs do, it's not something cats do. So it wouldn't have even occurred to me to discipline it. But now knowing that pigs use their head, pigs aren't like dogs where they can use their paws to hold a tree. I mean,
hmm
their hooves are hilarious and dainty and a little bit useless. Like
hmm
so so knowing what could be an aggressive issue and then cutting it off at the pass was, I think, the reason why he has not dared try that again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, like you said, like you did so many things right in that scenario, just noticing it. Because a lot of times people will be like, oh, whoa, what just happened? They're afraid. They're afraid to like touch their pig. So they just let them do whatever they want. And then because of that, their pig becomes more and more aggressive because it's making its place, it's making its way up to top hog in the family.
100%.
And it's hard, like once the pig gets there, it's hard. It's so much easier to prevent it from happening in the first place.
It's really interesting to realize that, one thing that I really made sure to do, and I would recommend to anyone else who gets a new piglet, is I just read everything I could. I
Hmm.
mean, I did your entire new piglet course. I watched every video you had. I read everything that was on the American Mini Pig. Every article that's on that American Mini Pig website, I've
Hmm.
read. I listened to some books on tape by people who have had pigs and who have been through the experience. That's one of the reasons why I'm so obsessed with the idea of you writing a book, is because I realized, since I'm a big reader, I realized there just wasn't anything from a longtime pig owner that covered there's like cute stories of what it
Right.
is to have a pig, but no one is covering this in a real way. So that's why I'm absolutely obsessed with you putting putting a book into the world. But that I think that early education so that I could re like for example, a few I was away working last week and the babysitter for the pigs was saying, "Oh, Cherry's making this funny squeaking noise and she's foaming at the mouth a little bit.
Huh?
God, should we go to the vet?" And I knew immediately she's teething. She's okay
Hmm.
unless X or Y comes up. Just give her some ice cubes
Hmm.
to push around with her nose and be sweet to her and,
Hmm.
put her heating pad out. But those you maybe don't I think I would have had a lot more had I not encountered you, I would have had a lot more moments of new pig owner panic.
Oh, yeah. And I have the one thing that you're talking about is that pigs they grind their teeth and it sounds squeaky. Squeak, squeak,
Yeah.
squeak, squeak,
Yeah.
squeak. And so between that and the foaming at the mouth, those are probably two of the biggest questions I get when people first bring their piglet home. Pigs foam at the mouth, it's like we do when we salivate. They're salivating because
Yep.
they can do it when they're teething, but also they do it for their whole lives anytime they anticipate or smell food.
Yep.
So
That's
they, and it can
well,
be a lot, it can be
oh,
drippings, but it's nothing to worry about.
Victor will, he especially as a boy, I mean, he will salivate to the degree if he spills food out of his bowl and then eats it off the floor, I then have to wipe the floor up because he has created a
Yes.
saliva trail.
Yes.
But, the thing is, the same way some people don't mind if their dog slobbers all over their face or don't mind if their cat sheds on the couch. It's just part of the pig experience.
It is. And it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Sometimes people think that the squeaking, the grinding of the teeth sounds like nails on a chalkboard. I find it delightful because usually it means they're happy.
I find pretty much every sound they make delightful, except for the horrible shriek that happens if you pick them up at a moment they don't want to be picked up.
Yeah.
But learning from you now, the nice thing is I'm able to support I mean, Victor is now a big enough boy that picking him up is basically like picking up a sack of potatoes. So I wouldn't say I do that very elegantly. I mostly just pick him up for like weigh-ins and things like that. But learning to just support them and understand that I wouldn't like it if someone picked me up, if a giant picked me up and my feet were dangling in the air either.
Exactly, exactly. So again, like that's where knowing pig is a pig helps you to not be so afraid as a new pig time and first time pig owner because if you
Or
know that pigs are afraid of heights, they can't fall and rebound like a cat does. If they fall, they're going to get hurt. So when you know those things, and you know that there's a potential for them to squeal when you pick them up, then it is going to be so much easier on you knowing that this is just how they are. This is not me. It's nothing I'm doing wrong. This is how pigs are.
well, it's funny how many, when I was exploring pig Reddit early on, how many people are saying my piglet doesn't like me. Like
Yes.
they're feeling, I mean, I think getting your feelings hurt by an animal is pretty silly. That being said, I understand because at first it seems that way. And I don't know, this may be a naughty thing to do, but I'll admit it here, which is the first couple of nights with each of them, I slept with them only because they were clearly missing their litter mates, they were missing
Yeah.
their mom, but it was also they slept on my chest and it was just an opportunity for them to know that they were safe.
Yes.
So I didn't sleep that much because I was so enamored with the piglets. But after that, I felt like we had connected in a clear way.
Mhm.
And then they were able to just and because they have each other, they're really happy at night. I knew that if you sleep every night with your piglet, then suddenly you're going to have a 75-pound pig in your bed and maybe it would be the best thing for your marriage. That being said, it was a really sweet way to connect because they became more and more comfortable, moved closer and closer to me.
Yeah, and by doing that, they learned your smell. And pigs don't know us. They don't know their family by how they look. They know their family by how they smell.
Yeah.
So by doing that, you kind of just incorporated yourself into their herd.
Which
And so now they recognize you.
I do like to refer to myself as the top hog
Yes,
fairly
me
often.
too. I
You're
say
the
that a lot.
Well,
Hmm.
you're the most top hog. I'm a lesser top hog in my smaller herd, but still.
Yeah, it's a nice position to be in for us, but not for them.
No, it's a nice position to be in, although I do think having a top hog makes them feel safer than because if they thought that they had to be the top hog,
Mhm.
then that's a lot of responsibility for them. And then they're always trying to protect their home
Yep,
in this way that's actually not great.
yep. So I have another question for you.
Of
Because
course.
you have such a busy career, you're acting, you're writing, you're directing, you're doing all these amazing things. How do your pigs fit into your life, like in your creative rhythm?
Such a great question. So, something I love about my job is that I have long periods of where I'm working out of the house every day. I'm on a set or I'm traveling for press. But then I have long periods where I can work from home. And especially when I'm writing, my day really belongs. I was never a 9 to 5 office job type of gal.
Either.
And which I think is why you and I have both figured out our own niches.
Hmm.
And what I love more than anything is if there's a day where I'm writing, is that firstly, taking care of them and spending time with them is such a great break. It gets me out of my head, it gets me outside. Like, if I didn't have them, and I feel this way about my other pets as well, it's the thing that gives me a rhythm always because otherwise like I would just stay there typing all day and be hunched over and exhausted and it reminds me to go out, put my head in the sun and also just the way that they treasure small moments and live in the present is just such a good think it's an important reminder for anyone. And I also love that when I writing can be really lonely, you're in your head, you're working by yourself all day, and they're always there, kind of. My favorite is, I'll just sit in my at my window seat writing and they're just snuffling around the ground and doing their thing. Or we're going out, we're spending time outside together. And so they're a really important part of it. And they also, when I have to go away and then come back for the weekend, it's such a wonderful thing to come back to them and to have that sense of home and they really make it feel like a home. So I love both being responsible for them and also just enjoying the way that they enjoy the world does for me creatively.
That's beautiful. I agree 100% because my animals are what help me to feel grounded
That's exactly right.
and relaxed.
Yeah.
And I I say this all the time, but like my one of my favorite things in the whole world is to wake up in the morning and I'm excited to go take care of my animals.
Yeah, that's it's a really, really special thing. It's a really special thing. And I think it's very healthy in that so much of life is about balance. And it's something that I'm always working towards. And it's something that we lose in this modern world of Zoom meetings and social media and being around creatures that are not obsessed with whether it's, celebrity gossip or TikTok or they still live in such an immediate way.
Mhm.
And so that is just a joy and a pleasure. And I think it brings everyone around them joy. And I know it certainly brings me joy. And I find that I told you that I'm writing something now and pigs can't stop creeping into my writing now. I mean, there's, and I really do eventually want to write something. I think I told you about the experience of raising pigs because I also think that as someone who wants to be a mother, it's been having cats and dogs and other pets really teaches you to nurture and really teaches you to be present. But there's something about how close pigs are to us emotionally, like their emotional responses, their feelings they have a real, when you look into their eyes, they have a real human quality. And so it's been a really, I hear them shrieking right now. I wonder what maybe they know I'm talking about them. They have a real human quality that I think allows you as someone who wants to be a mother to really learn. And I also always say that learning about spoiled pig syndrome and how to avoid it was the best education I got for also dealing with people in your life. Like
So true.
everything you learn about how not to sort of get a pig into the wrong habits or offer them, like it was the biggest education for me, also about how I was interacting with everyone in my life.
So interesting. But I agree, like pigs are so human. I mean, they are a great practice before you have a baby.
They're a practice run, and they're also a practice run for realizing that the same way that if you let a pig run willy-nilly and have every snack they want and do exactly whatever they like, they will then tear up your home. Like I
Mhm.
used to think when I was younger that if you gave and gave and gave to the people around you, that somehow that would lead to them feeling loved or them feeling safe. And actually, having boundaries with the people that you love and being clear about your own needs is the best thing you can do. And
Yes.
I really don't think I fully wrapped my head around that until I had pigs. So it's helping me in all walks of life.
Yeah, I do think that that's a lesson that we all have to learn.
Yeah.
Um, because I feel like that's a lesson that I've learned maybe in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Um, we have to take care of ourselves and we have to let people know not only what we need, but what we don't need.
Yeah.
You
And it's
can't run all over me.
and it's really hard to do.
It
It's
is.
really hard to do.
It is.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up. That's a really nice point.
oh, good.
Hmm.
Good. And by the way, I have to go in just 5 minutes if that's
Okay,
okay. I
we'll
just
wrap
want to,
this.
this is so fun. I could talk to you for 100 years.
It is fun. I
I
could talk to
know.
you all day too.
It's a
So
joy.
just think about if someone listening is thinking about getting a pig, what is one piece of advice you would give them?
One piece of advice I would really say, and I'm sure this is what a lot of people say, but if you love pigs, if you're thinking about getting a pig, think about whether you are actually prepared to, whether your lifestyle is actually prepared to bring a pig into it, because you are either going to have to be present with them the majority of the day or know somebody who can be. You're going to have outdoor space that they can enjoy because they do have to do their essential piggy thing. And also, it's going to take a different kind of patience and a different kind of discipline than you've had with other animals. And I think a lot of people, once they understand all of that, would still say yes, but they need to understand it so that they can go in completely prepared. Because what you do in the first 6 months of your pig's life is what the pig you're going to have
Hmm.
for the rest of its life. And
Yes.
so, and what you do, the rules you establish in that first 6 months to a year of having your pig is going to determine the outcome for a pet that, in best case scenario, lives a very long time. And and I didn't maybe totally understand that. I feel lucky that I came to understand that quickly. And so it was quick enough for us to be able to really establish the right kind of bond. But I think that, obviously the amount of pigs who end up in shelters is real and at rescues is really telling us that we are not maybe people are not getting the education that they need to before
Yeah.
their pig comes home.
Hmm.
And then the other thing that I would say, which is a smaller point, is that realizing and finding out that pigs love music was one of the best things that I learned, because not only do they love listening to music with me at night and calming down, but also if I want to go out, I can just put on music, and we've created that connection where it's comforting for them and they know that they're safe, it's also just beautiful to watch pigs react to music.
It is. They love it. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I
I love
am,
your podcast, and it was a complete honor to be here and talk about, honestly, my favorite topic that I don't get to talk about enough because if you just go into polite society and talk about pigs all day, your friends might think you've lost it a little bit. So this is my safe space to talk about pigs to my heart's content. And thank you for everything you've given me from education to support to my beautiful second pig cherry. I love who you are and what you represent, and I'm very lucky to be here.
you're the sweetest person. Maybe we can do it again in the future.
Let's please once I finally write my pig book, or
Yes.
when you write your pig book,
Yes, yes.
come in. So thank you. Thank you so much.